Hi everyone. I'm making this video for students in ENG 162, WA, WB, and WC. My name is Mr. Ritzik, Michael Ritzik, and I will be teaching this class this semester. Um, I do have office hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2 o'clock to 3:15. I'm in Founders Hall 403, which is in the English and Social Sciences division. So, if you ever wanted to stop by and meet me, or, if you ever needed to drop something off, like last semester, somebody sent me a document which was too big to send electronically, so they just printed it out and dropped it off here at my office. But I'm always free to meet with you because I'm actually here most afternoons later, so I certainly can meet with you at 5 or 6 o'clock, or wherever. So I'm available to assist you or to help you in any way possible. And please keep me in mind also when you're done with this class, tear off the front page of the syllabus, and then if you ever need a reference, a letter of recommendation, if you need me to do a phone interview, or whatever it may be, I can certainly help you. At the very beginning of the semester, I also wanted to tell you that if you wanted to get linked together through LinkedIn.com, I could certainly, we could do that. And the benefit of doing that is if you ever wanted me to write a recommendation, I could do it, and I could write it on LinkedIn in about 5 minutes. And so it's actually a very, very good idea to have several recommendations or on there, and then employers can see those. The administrative assistant to the vice president of academic affairs and student services, she wanted to move to Florida, so she needed a couple recommendations. So I wrote one as a faculty member, and then one of the deans who became a vice president, he wrote one. And then the director of career placement, Sherry Knowles, she also wrote one as well. So anyhow, it was pretty good. So um, it it helped that a couple people wrote on her behalf, and they were available. And she ended up becoming the administrative assistant to the vice president of finance for Embry-Riddle Aeronautical Institute in Orlando, Florida, which is a really, really good school. And so she was able to take classes there as well. So having a good, robust LinkedIn profile, in my opinion, helps. Even a pretty basic one, it's useful. So I did mention on the MP3 this morning that if you wanted to, you could make an appointment to go to career services. And of course, even if you have a basic resume together, they can help you to do that. They can show you how to develop a profile on LinkedIn. And during the semester in this particular course, we use www.collegecentral.com/WCCC. So in that, you will put your resume. Your resume, though, does have to get approved by student service, not student services, career services. So, if you wanted to develop something and then email it to Sherry Knoll, NOELC at WCCC.edu, they'll look at it, and then either Sherry or Jonna, and they have Pat, who's their administrative assistant, then they have another person that can help you with your resume. And the nice thing about it is, too, sometimes their resume is kind of too narrow on the page. Sherry, what she likes to do is spread it into like a 3-column grid, so you can put more onto the page. And then, for your ED verbs, instead of just organized or completed or developed, orchestrated, collaborated, they'll give you other ED verbs that are really, really helpful. And even your career objective, they will give you some real good advice or tips on that. And then, of course, your skills and your work experience, your volunteer work experience, and those kinds of things. So they'll help you to put together a pretty nice resume. I'll give you a good example. I had a student in this class whose name is Brianna, and so she spent more than an hour. I think she went back twice, and she had a really, really nice resume. and then she ended up doing a cover letter, LinkedIn profile, and then College Central, and then she also did a practice interview, like kind of a mock interview. And now she's doing her clinical through radiology down at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. And she's also working as a part-time employee with them. So, boy, she's really gained great experience. I had a student in this class last spring, and he was a Penn State student, and he put his resume, and you have to post at least 3 documents, but of course you can use more. So he put that in his collegecentral.com, through the WCCC site, and he needed a internship. He didn't get one initially, and he applied for one, and they picked someone else. So here, somebody else contacted him and said, "Oh, would you be interested in an internship with us?" And so he said, "Yeah." So that worked out really, really well. But when you're a college student, and of course beyond that, you always want to market yourself and develop yourself because it helps you to develop a broader network. And of course, while you are a student here, many of you will have like a practicum, which is like you have to work out in the field, like human services workers or students do, and others. And then some people will do what's called an apprenticeship. And that would be people that are in culinary arts and other fields. They have to go and work so many hours to gain skills in their field. They are paid, so a lot of our students work at Nemacolin Woodlands or Seven Springs as apprentice. So they learn as they go. And then some do clinicals. And so like in radiology, like the students who are in sonography, okay, so they have to learn to operate particular types of equipment. And people in sonography today do what's called vascular sonography. And my father had this, I don't know which side of the neck, but there's these carotid arteries in your neck. I don't know if there's 1 or 2, but I do know that if they get blocked, they have to open them up and put a stent in. So, sonography people do that. People who, if you've ever noticed people that have reddish legs, people are diabetic, or maybe have blood clots, they do that. So they look at the veins in the legs. And of course, for women who are having a harder time conceiving a child, under the direction of an OBGYN doctor, they have to try to figure out, perhaps is there some blockage or some other issue that's happening there. But they do, like it's called a clinical, they do hundreds of hours in different locations. But, what you can do as a WCCC student, you always have the option of doing an internship. So that's typically between 125 and like 180 hours or so. It's 3 credits. You have to pay for it. And you typically have somebody from your major, your discipline, who is your advisor. I've done a couple of them myself. I did one summer for a student who was in communications or something like that, or public relations. And so she ended up becoming an intern for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And so that was pretty good. She worked in their public relations department and ended up getting hired full time. If you are interested in doing that, so now is August, I would actually go to Meet with Career Services and call them or email them. I gave you the email address for Sherry Knoll, and they will let you know some of the opportunities. You're going to have to seek out an internship site, or sometimes they'll give you a recommendation. So, that's a definite thought for you. And this class may be a little bit different than some of your other online classes, because they'll put like links, or they'll put assignments right into the grade book. And I actually post the assignments in Assignments, and then I have you look at them, and then of course I have you email them to me at hrickim@wccc.edu, or you can also email me through Blackboard. Okay, so that's something you can do. Make sure to check out in Assignments, there's a section on how to do a signature block. I'd actually like you to do that, so I know, your name, and then you can put WCCC, you can put your major. Now, if you're like in pre-sonography or pre-nursing, then you could put that. If you're actually in the program, you just put diagnostic medical sonography or mechatronics or whatever. And so, like I said, you'd have you can see it. It shows you how to do that in assignments, like put your name, the college, the address of the school, your major, and then you can put your WCCC email, an alternate email that you use, and then like a point of contact, like a, um, a cell phone or something, so I can contact you if I need you to get in contact with you quickly, or anyone can do that. Now, when you start to work full time too, it's really important that you have your title in your signature block, and here's why. Dr. Daniel Ibarra was our president for 5 years. He was the vice president of academic affairs and student services for 12 years. And earlier in his career, he was a division chair of computer science and business. So he had three different jobs, with us. And so he had, like I said, different capacities. And even myself, so like I am a professor of English, that's my title, but I'm also like chair of cultural programming, and I do some other things here at the college. So I can be writing in different capacities. So that's helpful, for other people to know that. Now, for the first week, what you have to do is you have to email me an information sheet. People were like, it explains that in assignments. People were like, well, how do you do that? You can just number them, like each of the points. You can just copy the points that I want, and then you can just, answer each of the questions. And then for assignment one, you need to write a document of 750 to 1250 words. And all it really is asking two or three people, I would prefer three, what they think of you or what they think of you as a person. So it gives you the guidelines in the introductory paragraph. And then in the body, you do one paragraph with each person on what they had to say, with their quotes and comments. And then you use another paragraph indicating if you agree or disagree with what they had to say. On a very positive side, I had a student in class before, and she interviewed her mother. And her mother said that for a young person, she really puts a lot of her emphasis on helping others. So like during this one whole week, she was involved in Vacation Bible School with her church. And so that was, I guess, every evening, maybe 4 hours or 3 hours, she did that. And then on that weekend, she was involved in this walk. It's like to raise money at the YW or YMCA in Mount Pleasant, and it's for cancer, I believe, or something like that. But she did that. I mean, her and a group of people, maybe they walked 16 hours or something. It was like really, really involved. And then she also volunteered at this Susan Komen Race for the Cures, like for breast cancer, money for that. And so they're all really, really good causes. And so, she used those examples. I thought, boy, those are good examples. So if you talk to someone, you can use quotes, but if they can offer examples of what you are like as a person, that's advantageous. On the other hand, I had a student in this class a number of years ago, and she was an RN who was the chief nurse or whatever they're called, head nurse at a real, real big nursing home. And so her thought was that her coworkers really, really liked her. And when she interviewed them, she found out they did not. And they said that when she had a heart attack when she was off, they were hoping that she was just going to retire. And, some of the comments that they gave her really kind of affected her, and it made her realize that she shouldn't even be in nursing anymore. So she switched and gone into computer science. She ended up retiring from that field and ended up continuing on. She was just going to take a few classes with us, but she ended up getting a degree in computer science. And so maybe she liked it more. Maybe she needed to get away from nursing. The other one that you have to do is writing effective emails. So there are a couple of examples in assignment 2. I think there's 4 or 5 links that you have to read, and then you have to respond with, like, you have to look at format of email, content, paragraphs and lists and emphasis. And so just basically, you can list those points in the introductory paragraph. In the body, you can center them and bold them or whatnot, but you can just cover those points that you learned as far as that goes. So even like with paragraphs or lists, if you have bullets, if you have 5 or more points, you would number them. If you have fewer than that, then you can bullet them. But even your sentence length, you want to keep your sentences to like 10 or 15 words or less, your paragraphs to 5 or 6 sentences, and you definitely want to try to start practice using headings, like I said, bullets, numbers, in-text emphasis, and things like that. So those are some thoughts. And then finally, what I wanted to tell you, so for next week, we have to do an assignment with the discussion board, and so the discussion board one, you just have to revise 10 sentences, and you have to make them shorter and more compact. If you buy a copy from Amazon or one of those kind of places, this is what the book looks like. If you buy from the bookstore, it'll be a brown copy book with holes in it. You have to get a binder, but that's what it looks like. But when you do, for next week, when you do discussion board one, there is a whole section in our book as far as writing clear sentences, and it's on page 636, and it goes on through. It talks about conciseness, being accurate in your word choice, using the active voice, and so it goes to 645, so I would check that out. And when you do these sentences, please listen to this. You only can use one sentence of 20 words or less. So you can't, in the textbook it says, you can just shorten these, but my directions are that I just want you, for each of these clusters, I just want you to use one sentence of 20 words or less. Discussion board 1A is on telecommuting, people working from home, and of course there's pros and cons to that. You're going to have to post your first posting by Wednesday, the 31st of August, and then you're going to have to respond to another student by Friday, September 2nd. And so you just have to say I agree or disagree and so on. Be very, very careful with this assignment, with the the whole point about telecommuting, because the one thing that you want to do is you want to monitor employees and make sure they're doing the job. So my brother Tom works for a company that does health savings accounts, and what they do is they have you use your thumbprint or like your index finger, and then you swipe it and you log in, and then you have to do your work at their site. It's called a virtual private network. And so in that way, if somebody becomes injured or ill or whatnot, then they have a record of what the person is doing. And then, of course, they also, like their representatives, have to do a weekly update or report. And so they keep track more in that way. Other companies do it in other ways. Like my sister used to work for the federal government, and they actually monitored your phone messages or who you were talking to on the phone or sites that you were going to on the internet. And so it was much stricter. But the one thing that you do not want to do, as some people suggest, is that you'd have like a breath analyzer to see if the person's drinking, or that you would have a webcam that you would turn on at random times. You do not want to do that. You just want to, if monitor your employees, you can do a phone call, a chat or whatnot, or you can set weekly goals, but I wouldn't become overly intrusive, because if the person is not doing the job, you find out pretty quickly. In the online courses that I teach, I learned that really fast. Within 2 weeks, you can tell who's going to make it and who is not, and who doesn't have the good work habits. And so you'll see, if you'd ever manage or supervise people from home, that's kind of the way it is. And just the last thing, my brother-in-law, Ruben, I think he works for Aetna Insurance, and they moved about 90% of their employees from their Monroeville office, and they have them working home. And so as a result, they have 300 RNs that work from their home. They provide them with equipment and so on. But my brother-in-law, just from commuting, gas, clothes, food, and all that, it's very likely he saves about $200 or $250 a week in expenses. And of course, the company also saves as well. So they've been able to add more customers. So, through cost savings, it's been good. But also, like I said, some companies are not as effective. So, anyhow, I'm almost at 20 minutes. I like to keep it at 15, but I had more to cover today. So, that's it. Thank you very much, and hopefully you enjoy this class.